Hassan El Quadri, and I'm the Amina of Crypto. This is CoinTalk Africa, IslamFi, and today's topic is the blockchain or blockchain technology and Islamic finance. On today's edition, which happens to be the flagship edition of IslamFi, our new series, we will have Mufti Billal Omarjee, who is an expert in Islamic finance and Islamic social finance, with a pedigree as long as my arm. He will talk about himself in a few minutes and let us know why he's the best person to take us through this particular subject matter. And then we'll be delving into the issue at hand, which is blockchain technology, or should I say blockchain-related investments and Islamic finance. So with that, Mufti Billal, please go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and hello. I wouldn't say that I am exactly the best person. I'd like to consider myself as a student of knowledge always, but I am a Sharia advisor by profession. I am the co-founder and director of a company called Sharia Experts, and this company is basically a company that advises people, on Islamic financial matters. And along that, I am part of the Sharia board of a DeFi project, which is called Marhaba DeFi, which is essentially probably the first Islamic DeFi in the world. So I'm part of the Sharia board of that project. Originally, I would say I am from not far from Africa, actually. I'm from Reunion Island, which is an island near Madagascar. And it's a French island. And I am from there. And I moved to the UK a long time ago, initially for studies, and I just settled here. So my educational background is basically in Islamic theology. I studied Islamic theology here in the UK, in a Darul Uloom, in a special Islamic seminary located in Bury. And then after that, I went back to Reunion. I worked as an imam over there. And then I thought, there was a need for scholars to be trained in financial matters. So then I went to do my studies after that at the university in London, and I did my degree in banking and law. After that, I went back to another Islamic college located in Blackburn, in the northwest of England, and I did my basically my Mufti training, which lasted for over a year. And since then, I've been involved with Al Qalam Sharia Panel. I was a research assistant for the chair of Al Qalam Sharia Panel. Al Qalam Sharia Panel is basically located in the UK, and basically it's a body of scholars who advise people again on their financial matters, on their work, whether it is halal or not, whether their business is halal or not. So I was a research assistant for the chair. I also worked as an imam, obviously not only in Reunion, but also in London. And after that, I also worked for a few years for the National Zakat Foundation. So National Zakat Foundation is the first charity in the UK which has been collecting and distributing zakat locally. So usually you have charities that collect zakat and send it abroad. But my job over there was, I was in charge of the calculation service. So alhamdulillah, I have a lot of experience in how to calculate zakat. And ever since then, I am still involved with National Zakat Foundation. I think I had calculated thousand, no exaggeration, thousand of people's zakat calculation, and I'm still doing it every year, alhamdulillah. And also I have delivered hundreds of zakat seminars as well across the country, especially in London. After that, ever since then, like I said, I have worked, I have been involved, I am still involved. For people that know Islamic Finance Guru, I've been involved with them, even before they actually started. So they have a forum, again, if Islamic Finance Guru runs a forum where people come and ask questions again about the financial matters, whether the job is halal, whether the business is halal, etc. So me along another scholars who is very, very known, Mufti Faraz Adam, we've been handling the queries coming through the forum. I am still involved with them, with the Islamic Finance Group. As I said, currently I have my own company, Shariah Experts. We advertise people, we advertise businesses involved in crypto, and along that, recently we have certified a type of credit card, which is a service card, which is Shariah compliant with no interest. So this is pretty much me, basically, in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Mufti Billal. Could you tell us a bit about your experience when it comes to blockchain investments and blockchain technology?
So basically, just to take you back and explain to you my journey, with crypto and blockchain. Initially, I think a couple of years ago, I think just before the COVID-19 pandemic started, I thought to myself that there was a need. I kept hearing about Bitcoin, etc., and which was well in the news. So I thought to myself that a lot of people were asking questions: is Bitcoin halal? So mainly it was Bitcoin at the time: is Bitcoin halal, and then is this halal, etc. So I personally didn't know about it, as in, like, I did not know this is something completely new. I have heard about Bitcoin before, but never really I knew exactly what involved, especially the blockchain, how it works, etc. I never really knew what it was. So I did some courses online, etc., about blockchain. I started learning about it, and then initially I met online through LinkedIn. I approached the actual basically founder of Marhaba DeFi, who at the time the Marhaba DeFi did not exist. So Naqib, the CEO of the founder of Marhaba DeFi, and because I saw that he was an expert in blockchain, I approached him. I started asking the question, started having meeting with him, and he gave me kind of a good idea of what blockchain was. And this is when he told me that he wanted to launch a project, which is a DeFi project, which is going to be a Sharia compliant project. So we have to understand one thing as well, is that about that time when I was engaging with him, there was no such a thing as a Sharia compliant, DeFi project or anything like that. So there was no much, resources for me to learn whether, what the scholars have said about it. So, usually, even now, for example, when we want to know about something, whether it is Sharia compliant or not, you can see, alhamdulillah, the tons of book I have behind, is when we don't know something, we just refer back to the book and we look at what the scholars have said about it. There's something these scholars have written about something, and we use that as a guide, to understand, because there's two things. One is to understand, especially when it comes to finance, and in the case of blockchain, one thing is to actually understand what blockchain is, but also the Sharia implication behind the blockchain. And this, you can only get it if the scholars have written about it. But at the time, it was very, very minimal. I mean, they were barely, I think, one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known research about Bitcoin at the time was the one written by Mufti Faraz Adam in English. I'm talking about in the English language, but even in the Arabic language, there's no many things, available, for me to actually look at. So it was kind of very, very challenging to actually try to learn about blockchain, and to also determine whether it is Sharia compliant or not. And because there's so many things out there, on the internet, etc., and you read things, you don't know about these things. There are a lot of things that are technical, and there's no people to actually explain to you, what they are. So the good thing, alhamdulillah, I kind of am thankful to God, to have guided me towards somebody like Naqib, to actually the one who managed, to explain to me everything. So ever since I have met the founder of Marhaba DeFi, I have been involved in that space in terms of, like I said, I would say as a student in the capacity as a student, been learning about it. And also, I am lucky, I'm blessed to have actually been able to put this knowledge into practice, because I have been there ever since, Marhaba DeFi has come about. And ever since then, I have screened hundred of tokens to determine whether they're Sharia compliant or not. So yeah, I think, alhamdulillah, by now, I think there are still a lot of things for me to learn and for people to learn, because blockchain is something that keeps on moving all the time, right? It's not something that is settled. There's a lot of things you can do on blockchain. Blockchain, at the end of the day, is just a platform. So it's a very funny. I was actually saying, you read things and people tell you things and they write things and you don't know which one to trust. You mentioned about blockchain technology, and funnily enough, a few months ago, I was having a discussion with somebody, and this person, he said to me, blockchain is not technology. And he was like adamant to say, blockchain is not technology. And you think, well, everybody is saying blockchain is technology, and this guy is saying blockchain is not technology. So to understand, things, to get, first of all, you need to basically have available in front of you the right and correct information. If you do not have that, then that is a challenge in itself. Get the information is a challenge. And to get the correct one is another challenge. But then blockchain, is something that gives you a lot of, how can I say that, a lot of opportunities. So there's a lot of things you can do with blockchain. We're talking about crypto, but essentially there are many, many other things you will be able to do with blockchain. You understand? And people are talking about blockchain, to protect the identity, to protect your identity, give your name. I mean, there are millions of people. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think I have heard something like a quarter of the population do not have an identity, as they do not have papers to prove their identity. And people have moved on, like now we're not talking about how to provide these people with actually paper, certified by, the officials. We're talking about protecting their identities on the blockchain. Understand? So blockchain is something, is the technology that is being developed and is going to keep on being developed, and there's going to be a lot of things we will be able to do with it, not just crypto. And we have to understand that. And I think it's very important, especially for scholars to understand, because a lot of scholars and a lot of people, when they talk about blockchain, you just think about blockchain in a restrictive manner, that blockchain is equal to Bitcoin and nothing else. We have moved on to that. Blockchain is much more bigger than, Bitcoin and crypto, etc. There are many other things we can do on the blockchain, and many of these things will be considered Sharia compliant. Many of these things will not be considered Sharia compliant. In the UK, we have, in Europe, sometimes we have a big issue about, halal certification. Is the meat that we are eating, in the restaurant, is it actually halal or not? And many people are actually looking at finding solution on the blockchain to ensure that, the meat that we are consuming as most Muslim is actually halal. It comes from halal sources. So yeah.
So essentially, I use them to borrow money. Now, I didn't really want to do it, and my problem with it was I was worried that because there was a component of interest in it. So if you took the loan, you would have to pay the lender some interest. Yeah, and I complained to the startup, to the team that created the product, but they didn't say anything about it. And I think it wasn't because they weren't interested. I think it was more because they didn't understand how it would apply, how they could implement my concerns. And so I would love to hear your idea or your thoughts or opinion on this, on the issue of when it comes to, so even when you're talking about staking and yield farming and several of these other forms of investment within the DeFi industry that yield interest. So the whole point of the interest is to make to give the people who are investing in the idea or the product or the service an incentive for doing so. So even when you mine, you don't make interest, you make, they give you, you earn Bitcoins, but that's an earning, which is different. But when you do things like yield farming or staking, there's an interest that occurs. What is your opinion on the position of Islam on that?
A very good question, although is a very deep, but you know, I think we have to separate two things here. One is interest. So, okay. So interest we know is haram. Okay. Now interest is defined as any benefit that the lender is getting, you know, in exchange of that loan that he's making. So on top of the loan. So for example, I have $1,000 and I lend it to you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a loan, so obviously you're going to return it back to me, but I'm going to get a benefit. And that benefit does not have to be financial. So it can be financial. So like, for example, I'm going to say, okay, I'm lending you $1,000, return 1,200 back to me. That's interest. So the 200 is interest, is haram. It doesn't have to be in the financial form. It can be like, okay, I'm going to lend you $1,000. I'm going to return it back to me. However, there is one more condition that I make it part of the contract. There's a condition, is that you have to drop me at work every morning for the next 15 days. That is interest, and that's haram as well, because I am getting a benefit out of that loan. So any sort of benefit, you know, the lender is getting, you know, out of that loan, yeah, that is interest, and that's haram. Now, when it comes to crypto or anything else, yeah, what we need to determine whether this is the type of interest we're talking about or not. Like you mentioned about staking, for example. Now, staking, one thing for sure is that when we look at crypto protocol, yeah, or sorry, I mean the crypto white papers, yeah, is that there are certain jargon or certain, you know, terminology that I use, yeah, which does not reflect the reality of what they are. Okay. You have to understand that people that work in the crypto space, a lot of them are not from financial background. Okay, they're not from financial. They're from different background. Like myself, they might be, you know, from shariah compliant, you know, some scholars and student or something like that. You know, they're not from financial background, which means sometimes they use terminologies that are not correct, that does not reflect what they're trying to explain. So they will say, oh, you know, if you're going to do staking here, you're going to be earning interest. In fact, it is not interest. In fact, it is not interest. And therefore, it might not be haram, because what they're talking about is profit, is actual profit out of an investment. But they don't call it profit, they call it an interest. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they will say, oh, you know, out of this particular activity, yeah, you're going to be making a profit. But then when you look deep down into it, you realize it is not a profit made out of an investment. In fact, it is interest. You have to understand that is always problematic in this case, because it is very difficult sometimes to rely on the information given by the law. And you know, I give you an example. We thought that there are a lot of things that happen in the military XYZ. Here, we will say that you have lent your crypto because someone else is using it. So basically what happened is you have lent your crypto, they're using it, and now they are paying you back the crypto eventually with the reward, and that reward is actually interest and is haram. Understand? So if this happened, then it's problematic. But sometimes the staking, there's nothing happen. You know, like you just put you lock your token away, yeah, to get the staking power, to get the right, you know, to secure the protocol, and that's it. And nothing, nobody is using your staking your stake token. No one uses it. Nobody has got access to it. No one can do anything with it. All it does is it gives you more power, you know, to be selected, you know, to secure the platform. If that was to happen, then there's probably nothing wrong with it. Yeah. Therefore, the reward that you're going to get is not as a result of you lending your token, but is as a result of you securing the platform. And that's what you're getting rewarded for. However, me personally, my personal opinion at this moment in time, I have some reservation about this type of staking. I think, you know, we also, there's a long discussion about it, whether can you actually do, I mean, I am okay with a structure where, you know, you're securing the platform and you're taking reward from it. However, which type of platform are we talking about? So for example, on Ethereum, if you're doing staking on Ethereum, yeah, and you're trying to secure the platform, you know, or, you know, you're trying to, you know, I don't know, you're validating nodes, for example, you're validating transaction, for example. And is it a Sharia compliant activity, knowing that, you know, on Ethereum, there are many non-Sharia project being built on there. There are many haram projects being built on Ethereum. So are you basically helping in committing sin, basically, by, you know, securing this platform? I think I have a lot of reservation about it, but this is my personal opinion. I have not, I mean, many other scholars would disagree with it. But yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to staking, you need to determine, like I said to you, are you lending or not? Yeah, if you are lending, meaning if people are using your token, and any reward you're going to get from it is considered as interest and therefore is haram. However, if no one uses it, and, you know, you can clearly say, you know, your token is not being used and is locked and no one can access to it or anything like that, and you're being rewarded for securing the platform, then potentially, my opinion, potentially it can be halal, provided that, you know, the platform is Sharia compliant, etc. There are many, you know, other things to look at. But yes, interest in it, you also mentioned about NFTs. So if you have lent, if you feel okay, you've lent your NFT, or did you borrow against it or something like that, right? If you've taken a loan.
Well, what I did was I borrowed against it, so I took a loan against it.
Yeah, yeah. So if you've taken a loan against it and you are asked to pay interest, then the interest is haram. So therefore, you know, it is not Sharia compliant. Okay. You understand?
So the question I would ask is there a misdeed on my part because I didn't have a choice? There was no opportunity for me to give them to receive that loan without paying an interest. So in that circumstance, is there did I fall short?
Look, I think one thing we know, yeah, is that when it comes to interest, it is not just the receiving interest that's haram, right? So it's not just the receiving activity that is haram, but it is also giving the interest. In fact, that even, you know, the witnesses to that transaction,
oh wow,
they're committing sin, and also, you know, the one who is how do you call it, recording, you know, making the record of that transaction as well. Okay. Even that as well is haram, is impermissible. However, when it comes to giving, sometimes the scholars, they've made some exception, and this really is to be judged on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Sometimes, you know, like even, you know, outside of the crypto world, you know, even in the normal world, you know, sometimes, you know, like a person, like we live in the West, they're not that many, Sharia compliant loans available to us. So sometimes, people, they have no choice but to borrow, from the bank or from a financial institution and repay with the interest. Yeah, or they have to buy certain things on credit and pay with interest. So sometimes the scholars, they look at the person and they will say, okay, if it's like that, then, do it. If you have no other option, and, it's a case of necessity, then, so I think it's a case by case thing that we need to judge on. Sometimes it will be permissible, sometimes it will not be permissible. But yeah, otherwise, general rule is that you need to avoid it.
Thank you very much. Mufti, do you have anything else to add, or any area that you'd like to talk about very quickly before we end the session today?
No, I think we've obviously we've covered pretty much the most important things. I think obviously, like I said to you, the Islamic or Sharia compliant crypto project is still new, and inshallah, there are a lot of benefits. There are scholars, okay, maybe a lot of people, they will have that question that, why certain scholars thinks, it is not Sharia compliant, etc. You have to understand one thing. Bitcoin, there are many fatwas around Bitcoin, whether Bitcoin is halal or not. Usually it's down to how people understand, how the scholars understand money from a Sharia perspective, meaning the main point is whether money can be created outside of the state or not. Yeah. So for most scholars that come from Islamic countries, yeah, where they have a state, where they depend on the state, they will say, like outside of the state, no one else can make money, right? And therefore, if it's not issued by the state, therefore it is not Sharia compliant. For people like myself, where we come, we come from a background that is more liberal, etc. The environment has been influenced a lot by capitalism, etc. We think, okay, as long as it's not illegal, what we look at is whether it's illegal or not. As long as it's not illegal, the state does not stop you from it. We will say, okay, there's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, I'm trying to simplify it here, but this is the main two point. But then we have to also understand that Bitcoin, like I said at the beginning, is just one thing, just one side of the coin. There are many other crypto projects that are not like Bitcoin. Like, for example, you have tokenized assets, like you have gold, which is on the blockchain. Yeah. So by you buying a crypto gold, which is fully 100% backed by, gold, it's as if you bought gold in real life, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's a product which is on the blockchain, so you cannot call it impermissible. Do you understand? So you have to judge between the two. There's the difference between Bitcoin. There's difference between, all coins and any other coins, that is being built on the blockchain. Every other coin has been built on the blockchain. You need to judge them, on the individual basis on how they're structured, etc. You understand? So yeah, so this is one thing we have to really pay attention. Don't think because some scholars say Bitcoin is haram, then everything out there in the crypto space is haram. Don't think like that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mufti, for the knowledge and information that you've shared with us today. We were hoping that some of our participants today will have questions, but no questions have come up, so which is all well and good. It just means that we get to tie this up in a nice, pretty bow very early. I think I am quite satisfied with our learning today. You've told us so much already. And since this is a series, what that means is that we're going to be able to come back later on if we have any additional questions or issues that we want to bring to you. We do hope that you will make yourself available to us in future as we continue to run this series, because we're hoping that we will be able to tackle as many aspects of Islamic finance as we can under the umbrella of blockchain technology. So we do hope that you will be interested in joining us again to talk more about this subject matter. Thank you so much. Okay, so some of our attendees are saying thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. We really appreciate you and we appreciate your time. Jazakumullah khairan. With that, from me, I'm Hassan El Quadri. I say thank you very much, everyone. Alhaja Rafia Sarumi.
No, I just said Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you so much for joining us. Anik, thank you so much for joining us as well. We really appreciate you all. With that, we'll say adieu.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.